Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today we're going to hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 8, text number, 25?
26.
26. Text number 26. O super soul of all living entities, O personality of Godhead, simply by seeing you, I have now been freed from all lusty desires, which are the root cause of insurmountable illusion and bondage in the material world. Okay, 1 second. Mhm. If you can find it.
Yes.
Text 27. Chisuka Uvacha Itam Itan Nu Bhavastam Bhagavan Kapilo Muni Ansun Mantam Uva Chitam Anugrah Diya okay. O King Parikshit, when Amsuman had glorified the Lord in this way, the great sage Kapila, the powerful incarnation of Vishnu, being very merciful to him, explained to him the path of language. Text 28. The personality of God has said, my dear Amsaman, here is the animal sought by your grandfather for sacrifice. Please take it. As for your forefathers who have been burnt to ashes, they can be delivered only by the Ganges water and not by any other means. Text 29. Thereafter, Amsaman circumambulated Kapila Muni.
Use the pencil.
Huh? Oh, yeah, okay. And offered him respectful obeisances, bowing to his head after fully satisfying him in this way. Amsuman brought back the horse meant for sacrifice, and with this horse, Maharaj Sagara performed the remaining ritualistic ceremonies. Text number 30. After delivering the charge of his kingdom to Amsuman, and thus being freed from all material anxiety and bondage, Sagara Maharaj, following the means instructed by Orva Muni, achieved the supreme destination. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th chapter, 9th the canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Sons of Sagra Meet Lord Kapila Dev. Okay, now we go to chapter 9, Dynasty of Suman. This chapter describes the history of the dynasty of Suman up to Katfanga, and it also describes how Bhagirath brought the water of the Ganges to the earth. The son of Maharaj Amsuman was Dilipa, who tried to bring the Ganges to this world, but who died without success. Bhagirath, the son of Dilipa, was determined to bring the Ganges to the material world, and for his purpose, he underwent severe austerities. Mother Ganges, being fully satisfied by his austerities, made herself visible to him, wanting to give him a benediction. Bhagirath then asked her to deliver his forefathers. Although Mother Ganges agreed to come down to earth, she made two conditions. First, she wanted some suitable male to be able to control her waves. Second, although all sinful men would be freed from sinful reactions by bathing in the Ganges, Mother Ganges did not want to keep all these sinful reactions. These two conditions were subject matters for consideration. Bhagirath replied to Mother Ganges, the personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva, will be completely able to control the waves of your water. And when pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions left by sinful men will be counteracted. Bhagirath then performed austerities to satisfy Lord Shiva, who is called Asutosha because he is naturally satisfied very easily. Lord Shiva agreed to Bhagirath's proposal to check the force of the Ganges. In this way, simply by the touch of the Ganges, Bhagirath's forefathers were delivered and allowed to go to the heavenly planets. The son of Bhagirath was Shruta. The son of Shruta was Nava, and Nava's son was Sandudvipa. The son of Sandudvipa was Ayutthaya, and the son of Ayutthaya was Rituparna, who was a friend of Nala. Rituparna gave Nala the art of gambling and learned from him the art of Asvavidya. The son of Rituparna was known as Sarva Karna, and the son of uh, Sarva Kama was Sudasa, and his son was Sodasa. The wife of Sodasa was named Daman Ayan, Daman, sorry, uh, Damayanta, Damayanti, or Madhyayanti, and Sodasa was also known as Kalma Sapada. Because of some defect in the fruitive activities, Sodasa was cursed by Vasista to become a Rakshasa. Well, second. Okay. The wife of Sudasa was named Damayanti or Madhyayanti, and Sudasa was also known as Kalmas Sapada. Because of some defect in his fruitive activities, Sodasa was cursed by Vasista to become a Rakshasa. While walking through the forest, he saw a Brahmana engaged in sex with his wife. And because he had become a Rakshasa, he wanted to devour the Brahmana. Although the Brahmana's wife pleaded with him in many ways, Sodasa devoured the Brahmana, and the wife therefore cursed him, saying, "As soon as you engage in sex, you will die." After 12 years, therefore, even though Sodasa was released from the curse of Vasista Muni, he remained sonless. At that time, with Sudasa's permission, Vasista impregnated Sudasa's wife, Madhyayanti. Because Madhyayanti bore the child for many years but still could not give birth, Vasista struck her abdomen with a stone, and thus a son was born. The son was named Asmaka. The son of Asmaka was known as Balika. He was protected from the curse of Parasurama because of being surrounded by many women, and therefore he is also known as Nari Kavacha. When the entire world was devoid of Kshatriyas, he became the original father of more Kshatriyas. He is therefore sometimes called Mulaka. From Balika, Dasarata was born. From Dasarata came Idavidi, and from Idavidi came Vishvasaha. The son of Vishvasaha was Maharaj Katpanga. Maharaj Katpanga joined the demigods in fighting the demons and was victorious. And the demigods, therefore, wanted to give him a benediction. But when the king inquired how long he would live and understood that his life would last only a few seconds more, he immediately left the heavenly planets and returned to his own abode by airplane. He could understand that everything in this material world is insignificant, and thus he fully engaged in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. Text 1. Sukadeva Goswami continues, King Amsuman, like his grandfather, performed austerities for a very long time. Nonetheless, he could not bring the Ganges to this material world, and thereafter, in due course of time, he died. Text 2. Like Amsuman himself, Dilipa, his son, was unable to bring the Ganges to this material world, and he also became a victim of death in due course of time. Then Dilipa's son, Bhagirata, performed very severe austerities to bring the Ganges to this material world. Text number 3. Thereafter, Mother Ganges appeared before King Bhagirata and said, I am very much satisfied with your austerities and am now prepared to give you benedictions as you desire. Being thus addressed by Ganga Devi, Mother Ganges, the king bowed his head. The king bowed his head before her and explained his desire. Purport: the king's desire was to deliver his forefathers, who had been burnt to ashes because of disrespecting Kapila Muni. Text 4. Mother Ganges replied, when I fall from the sky to the surface of the planet Earth, the water will certainly be very forceful. Who will sustain that force? If I am not sustained, I shall pierce the surface of the earth and down to Rasatala, the Patala area of the universe, and go down to Rasatala, the Patala area of the universe. Text number 5. O king, I do not wish to go down to the planet Earth. For there the people in general will bathe in my water to cleanse themselves of the reactions of their sinful deeds. When all these sinful reactions accumulate in me, how shall I become free from them? You must consider this very carefully. Very good. Purport. The Supreme Personality Godhead says, Sarvadharma Pradityaja, Mame Tam Saranamrita, Aham Tam Sarvapapi Yo Moksyasi, Moksyasi, Moksyasi Masucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can accept the reactions of anyone's sinful deeds and neutralize them because he is pavitra, pure, like the sun, which is never contaminated by any worldly infection. Teji asam na dosaya vane sarva bhujo yata. Bhagavatam 10.33.29. One who is very powerful is not affected by any sinful activity. But here we see that Mother Ganges fears being burdened with the sins of the people in general who would bathe in her waters. This indicates that no one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is able to neutralize the reactions of sinful deeds, whether one's own or those of others. Sometimes the spiritual master, after accepting a disciple, must take charge of that disciple's past sinful activities, and being overloaded must sometimes suffer, if not fully, then partially, for the sinful acts of the disciple. Every disciple, therefore, must be very careful not to commit sinful activities after initiation. See, now that's very important. The poor spiritual master is kind and merciful enough to accept a disciple and partially suffer for that disciple's sinful activities. But Krishna, being merciful to his servant, neutralizes the reactions of sinful deeds for the servant who engages in preaching his glories. Even Mother Ganges feared the sinful reactions of the people in general and was anxious about how she would counteract the burden of these sins. Text 6. Bhakti-Rama said, those who are saintly because of devotional service and are therefore in the renounced order, free from material desires, and who are pure devotees, expert in following the regulative principles mentioned in the Vedas, are always glorious and pure in behavior and are able to deliver all fallen souls. When such pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions accumulated from other people will certainly be counteracted. For such devotees always keep in the core of their hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions. Very nice. Purport. Mother Ganges is available to everyone for bathing. Therefore, not only will sinful persons bathe in the Ganges water, but in Haridwar, the other holy places where Ganges flows, saintly persons and devotees will also bathe in the waters of the Ganges. Devotees and saintly persons advanced in the renounced order can deliver even the Ganges. Tirthi, Kurvanti, Tirthanti, Swan ta stena gada rita. Bhagavatam 1.13.10. Because saintly devotees always keep the Lord within the core of their hearts, they can perfectly cleanse the holy places of all sensual reaction. Therefore, people in general must always respectfully honor saintly persons. It is ordered that as soon as one sees a Vaishnava or even a sannyasi, one should immediately offer respects to such a holy man. If one forgets to show respect in this way, one must observe a fast for that day. This is the Vedic injunction. One must be extremely careful to refrain from committing offenses at the lotus feet of a devotee or saintly person. There are methods of prayaschitta or atonement, but they are inadequate to cleanse one's sinful reactions. One can be cleansed of sinful reactions only by devotional service, as stated in regard to the history of Ajamila. Kechit Kevala Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Adam Dunvanti Kartneya Niharam Iva Bhaskara. Only a rare person who has adopted complete, unavoided devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful action with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Bhagavatam 6.1.15. If one is under the protection of a devotee and sincerely renders service unto him by this process of bhakti yoga, one is certainly able to counteract all sinful reactions. Very good, very good. Text number 7. Like a cloth woven of threads, extending for its length and breadth, this entire universe, in all its latitude and longitude, is situated under different potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the incarnation of the Lord, and thus he represents the Supersoul in the embodied soul. He can sustain your forceful waves on his head. Purport. The water of the Ganges is supposed to rest on the head of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of God, who sustains the entire universe by different potencies. Lord Shiva is described in the Brahma Samhita 545. Shiram yata dadi vikara visesa yoga sanjayate nahitata pritak asti heto ya sambhutam apitata samupaiti karyat govindam madhipurusham tamaham bhajami. Milk changes into yogurt when mixed with a yogurt culture, but actually, yogurt is constitutionally nothing but milk. Similarly, Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assumes the form of Lord Shiva for the special purpose of material transactions. I offer my obeisances at Lord Shiva's lotus feet. Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the same sense that yogurt is also milk, although at the same time it is not milk. For the maintenance of the material world, there are 3 incarnations: Rama, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, or Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Vishnu in an incarnation for the mode of ignorance. The material world exists predominantly in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, Lord Shiva is compared here to the longitude and latitude of the entire universe, which resembles a cloth woven of threads extending for both its length and breadth. Text 8. After saying this, Bhagirath satisfied Lord Shiva by performing austerities. O King Parikshit, Lord Shiva was very quickly satisfied with Bhagirath. Purport. The words Asvatusyata indicate that Lord Shiva was satisfied very soon. Therefore, another name for Lord Shiva is Asutosha. Materialistic persons become attached to Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva bestows benedictions upon anyone and everyone very quickly, not caring to know how his devotees prosper or suffer. Although materialistic persons know that material happiness is nothing but another side of suffering, they want it. And to get it very quickly, they worship Lord Shiva. We find that materialists are generally devotees of many demigods, especially Lord Shiva and Mother Durga. They do not actually want spiritual happiness, for it is almost unknown to them. But if one is serious about being happy spiritually, he must take shelter of Lord Vishnu, as the Lord personally demands. Sarvadharmam parityaja mam ekam saranam vraja am tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshishyami ma sucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavatam 1866. Here is a very, very important verse. Text 9. When King Bhagirath approached Lord Shiva and requested him to sustain the forceful waves of the Ganges, Lord Shiva accepted the proposal by saying, "Let it be so." Then, with great attention, he sustained the Ganges on his head. For the water of the Ganges is purifying, having emanated from the toes of Lord Vishnu. Text number 10. The great and saintly king Bhagirath brought the Ganges, which can deliver all fallen souls, to that place on earth where the bodies of his forefathers lay burnt to ashes. Text 11. Bhagirath mounted a swift chariot and drove before Mother Ganges, who followed him, purifying many countries, until they reached the ashes of Bhagirath's forefathers, the sons of Sagra, who were thus sprinkled with water from the Ganges. Text 12. Because the sons of Sagra had offended a great personality, the heat of their bodies was increased and were burnt to ashes. But simply by being sprinkled with water from the Ganges, all of them became eligible to go to the heavenly planets. What then is to be said of those who use the water of Mother Ganges to worship her? Mother Ganges is worshipped by the water of the Ganges. A devotee takes a little water from the Ganges and offers it back to the Ganges. When the devotee takes the water, Mother Ganges does not lose anything. And when the water is offered back, Mother Ganges does not increase. But in this way, the worshiper of the Ganges is benefited. Similarly, a devotee of the Lord offers the Lord patram pushpam phalam toyam, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, in great devotion, but everything, including the leaf, flower, fruit, and water, belongs to the Lord, and therefore there is nothing to renounce or to accept. One must simply take advantage of the bhakti process, because by following this process, one does not lose anything, but one gains the favor of the Supreme Person. Text 13. Simply by having water from the Ganges come in contact with the ashes of their burnt bodies, the sons of Sagar Maharaj were elevated to the heavenly planet. Wow, this is. Therefore, what is to be said of a devotee who worships Mother Ganges faithfully with a determined vow? One can only imagine the benefit that accrues to such a devotee. Text 14. Because Mother Ganges emanates from the lotus toe of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anantadeva, she is able to liberate one from material bondage. Therefore, whatever is described herewith about her is not at all wonderful. Purport. It has actually been seen that anyone who regularly worships the Mother of Ganges simply by bathing in her water keeps very good health and gradually becomes a devotee of the Lord. This is the effect of bathing in the water of the Ganges. Bathing in the Ganges is recommended in all Vedic Shastras, and one who takes to this path will certainly be completely freed from all sinful reactions. The practical example of this is that the sons of Maharaj Sagar went to the heavenly planets when water from the Ganges merely touched the ashes of their burnt bodies. Wow, wonderful statement. Text 15. Great sages, completely freed from material lusty desires, devote their minds fully to the service of the Lord. Such persons are liberated from material bondage without difficulty, and they become transcendently situated, acquiring the spiritual quality of the Lord. This is the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 16 and 17. Shuto Bhagirath Yad Jan Jine Tasya Nabo Paro Bhavat Sandhu Vipas Tatas Tasmat Ayuta Yus Tato Bhavat. Sorry. Ritaparno Nala Sato Yo Swa Vidyam Ayam Nala Dat Vaksha Hirdayam Chasmai Sarvak Tamas Tu Tat Sutam. Bhagirath had a son named Shruta, whose son was Nava. This son was different from the Nava previously described. Nava had a son named Sindhudvipa. From Sindhudvipa came Ayutthaya, and from Ayutthaya came Rituparna, who became a friend of Nala Raja. Rituparna taught Nala Raja the art of gambling, and Nala Raja gave Rituparna lessons in controlling and maintaining horses. The son of Rituparna was Sarva Karma. Purport. Gambling is also an art. Kshatriyas are allowed to exhibit talent in this art of gambling by the grace of Krishna. The Pandavas lost everything by gambling and were deprived of their kingdom, wife, family, and home because they were not expert in the gambling art. In other words, a devotee may not be expert in materialistic activities. It is therefore advised in the Shastra that materialistic activities are not at all suitable for the living entity, especially the devotees. A devotee should therefore be satisfied to eat whatever is sent as prasadam by the Supreme Lord. A devotee remains pure because he does not take to sinful activities such as gambling, intoxication, meat eating, and illicit sex. There it is. Text 18. Sarvakama had a son named Sudasa, whose son, known as Sodasa, was the husband of Damayanti. Sodasa is sometimes known as Mitra Saha or Kalma Sapada. Because of his own misdeed, Mitra Saha was sonless and was cursed by Vasista to become a man-eater, a Rakshasa. That's what happens when people don't follow Krishna consciousness. Text 19. King Parikshit said, O Sukadeva Goswami, why did Vasista, the spiritual master of Sodasa, curse that great soul? I wish to know this. I wish to know of this. If it is not a confidential matter, please describe it to me. Text 20 and 21. Sukadeva Goswami said, once Sudasa went to live in a forest where he killed a man-eater, a Rakshasa, but forgave and released the man-eater's brother. That brother, however, decided to take revenge, thinking to harm the king. He became the cook at the king's house. One day, the king's spiritual master, Vasista Muni, was invited for dinner, and the Rakshasa cook served him human flesh. Oh my God. You got to be really careful and choosing a cook. Text 22. While examining the food given to him, Vasista Muni, by his mystic power, could understand that it was unfit to eat, being the flesh of a human being. He was very angry at this and immediately cursed Sodasa to become a man-eater. You see, that is not a blessing, it's a curse. Now, just imagine how many people are eating meat. They're all being cursed. Text 23 and 24. When Vasista understood that the human flesh had been served by the Rakshasa, not by the king, he undertook 12 years of austerity to cleanse himself for having cursed the faultless king. See that? Meanwhile, King Sodasa took water and chanted the Sapa mantra, preparing to curse Vasista. But his wife, Madhyanti, forbade him to do so. See how women are so powerful. Then the king saw that the 10 directions, the sky, the surface of the globe, were full of living entities everywhere. Text 25. Sodasa thus acquired the propensity of a man-eater and received on his leg a black spot, for which he was known as Kalma Sapada. Once King Kalma Karma Sapada saw a Brahmana couple engaged in sexual intercourse in the forest. Second, okay. Being influenced by the propensity of a Rakshasa and being very hungry, King Sudasa seized the Brahmana. Then the poor woman, the Brahmana's wife, said to the king, O hero, you are not actually a man eater. Rather, you are among the descendants of Maharaj Ikshvaku. Indeed, you are a great fighter, the husband of Madayanti. You should not act. You should not act irreligiously in this way. I desire to have a son. Please therefore return my husband, who has not yet impregnated me. She's a really good wife. 628. Okay, O hero, this human body is meant for universal benefits. If you kill this body untimely, you will kill all the benefits of human life. Purport. Srila Narottam Dasa Thakura has sung. Hari Hari Vipale Janama Goinu Manushya Janma Paya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janya Suniya Visha Kainu. Very beautiful poetry. The body of a human being is extremely valuable because in this body, one can understand the instructions of Krishna and attain ultimate destination of the living entity. The living entity is within the material world to fulfill the mission of going back home, back to Godhead. In the material world, one hankers for happiness. But because one does not know the ultimate destination, one changes bodies one after another. However, if one gets the opportunity to possess a human form of body, in this body, he can fulfill the four principles of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And if one is properly regulated, he makes further progress after liberation to engage in the service of Radha and Krishna. Wow, that's the gold standard. This is the success of life, to stop the process of repeated birth and death and go back home, back to God. Mom 80, to be engaged in the service of Radha and Krishna. Therefore, taking a human body is meant for completing one's progress in life. Very important statement. A very important statement. Therefore, taking a human body is meant for completing one's progress in life. Throughout human society, killing of a human being is taken very seriously. Hundreds and thousands of animals are killed in slaughterhouses, and no one cares about them. But the killing of even one human being is taken very seriously. Why? Because the human form of body is extremely important in executing the mission of life. Text 29. Here is a learned, highly qualified woman engaged in performing austerity and eagerly desiring to worship the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul, who lives within the core of the heart in all living entities. Purport. The wife of the Brahmana did not regard her husband as a superficial Brahmana, who was called a Brahmana merely because he was born of a Brahmana family. Rather, this Brahmana was actually qualified with the Brahminical symptom. Yasya Yao Lakshanam Proktam. Bhagavatam 7.11.35. The symptoms of a Brahmana are stated in the Shastra. Samaham tapasocham shantir arjavam eva cha jnanam vijnanam astiktam brahmakarma svabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Bhagavatam 18:42. Not only must a Brahmana be qualified, but he must also engage in actual Brahminical activities. Simply to be qualified is not enough. Important statement. Simply to be qualified is not enough. One must engage in Brahmana's duty. The duty of a Brahmana is to know the Param Brahma, Krishna. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam. Very important words. Because this Brahmana was actually qualified and was also engaged in Brahminical activities, Brahma karma, killing him would be a greatly sinful act. And the Brahmana's wife requested that he not be killed. Text 30. My Lord, you are completely aware of the religious principle. As a son never deserves to be killed by his father, here is a Brahmana who should be protected by the king and never killed. How does he deserve to be killed by a Rajarsi like you? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Rajarsi refers to a king who behaved like a rishi or sage. Such a king is also called Naradeva because he is considered a representative of the Supreme Lord. Because his duty is to rule the kingdom, to maintain Brahminical culture, he never desires to kill a Brahmana. Generally, a Brahmana, a woman, a Brahmana, woman, child, old man, or cow is never regarded as punishable. A very important statement that we should follow. Thus, the wife of the Brahmana requested the king to refrain from this sinful act. Text 31. You are well known and worshipped in learned circles. How dare you kill this Brahmana, who is a saintly, sinless person, well versed in Vedic knowledge? Killing him would be like destroying the embryo within the womb or killing a cow. Oh, well, there's a lot of people nowadays killing and living in the embryo, within the embryo, or killing a cow. Unfortunately, as stated in Amar Kosa Dictionary, Runo Ribake Vala Garbe. The word Runa refers to a cow or to the living entity in embryo. According to Vedic culture, destroying the undeveloped embryo of the soul in the womb is as sinful as killing a cow or a Brahmana. In the embryo, the living entity is present in an undeveloped stage. Modern scientific theory that life is a combination of chemicals is nonsense. Scientists cannot manufacture living beings, even like those born from eggs. The idea that scientists can develop a chemical situation resembling that of an egg and bring life from it is nonsensical. You see that? That means that the scientists cannot even make an egg. Their theory that chemical combination can have life may be accepted, but these rascals cannot create such a combination. This verse refers to Brun Nasya Godam, the killing of a Buruna, or destruction of the embryo. Here is a challenge from the Vedic literature, the crude, atheistic understanding that the living entity is a combination of matter belongs to the grossest ignorance. Next 32. Without my husband, I cannot live for a moment. If you want to eat my husband, it would be better to eat me first, for without my husband, I am as good as a dead body. So what a wonderful statement that is. Purport. In the Vedic culture, there is a system known as sati, or sahamarana, in which a woman dies with her husband. According to this system, if the husband dies, the wife will voluntarily die by falling in the blazing funeral pyre of her husband. Here, in this verse, the feelings inherent in this culture are expressed by the wife of the Brahmana. A woman without a husband is like a dead body. Therefore, according to Vedic culture, a girl must be married. This is the responsibility of her father. A girl may be given in charity, and a husband may have more than one wife. But a girl must be married. This is Vedic culture. A woman is supposed to be always independent. In her childhood, she is dependent on her father, in youth on her husband, and in old age on her elderly sons. According to Manu Samhita, she is never independent. Independence for a woman means miserable life. In this age, so many girls are unmarried and falsely imagining themselves free, but their life is miserable. Here is an instance in which a woman felt that without her husband, she was nothing but a dead body. Wow, amazing. Text 33. Are we almost finished? Are we almost finished?
Yeah, Maharaj, like almost there.
All right, we'll end with this now. Being condemned by the curse of Vasista, King Sudasa devoured the Brahmana. Oh my God. Exactly as a tiger eats its prey. Even though the Brahmana's wife spoke so pitiably, Sudasa was unmoved by her lamentation. Purport. In this example of destiny, King Sudasa was condemned by the curse of Vasista, and therefore, even though he was well qualified, he could not restrain himself from being a tiger-like Rakshasa, for this was his destiny. Tavlabdate to Kavad Ayata Sukam. Bhagavatam 1.5.18. As one is put into distress by destiny, destiny can also put one in a happy situation. Destiny is extremely strong, but one can change destiny if one comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Karmani nidahati kintucha bhakti bhajam. Brahma Samhita 5.54. 634. When the chaste wife of the Brahmin saw that the husband, who was about to discharge semen, had been eaten by the man-eater of the paragraph, she was overwhelmed with grief and lamentation. Thus she angrily cursed the king. O foolish, sinful person, because you have eaten my husband when I was sexually inclined and desiring to have the seed of a child, I shall also see you die when you attempt to discharge semen in your wife. In other words, whenever you attempt to sexually unite with your wife, you shall die. Whoa, what a curse that is. Okay, I think we'll stop right there on this horrible text. Yeah, we'll stop there. Are there any questions or comments? Questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Mataji, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, Maharaj. You talked about women being dependent on husband because they need protection and they need protection from father when they're young. But I see from today's work culture, whatever, the women when they're working and they're making enough money, they think they don't need to get married and be responsible. So that's the idea the modern culture influences. So as as in Krishna consciousness, how can we change that thinking? I mean, I obviously know it's not right. Can you please explain?
Well, the problem is modern education. Modern education is teaching the women not to depend on men. In fact, uh, the women are not really interested in getting married. Not all women, but there are a lot of women that don't even want to get married. Or they will not get married, but they'll have sex with a man to have a child, and then they won't, live with the man. They'll just raise the child independently. All kinds of strange things happen in Kali Yuga. So this is a very dangerous time of life in this world. We should carefully hear the Vaishnava Acharyas and follow their instructions and not uh, imitate, not question of imitate, not try to do things independently and engage in so-called uh, activities that are against the principles of the Vedic culture. So, in this verse today, in this last verse there, it says, "O foolish, sinful person, because you have eaten my husband when I was sexually inclined and desiring to have the seed of a child, I shall also see you die when you attempt to discharge semen into in your wife. In other words, whenever you attempt to sexually unite with your wife, you shall die. What a what a what you would call this a terrible curse that is given uh, when uh, people get so involved in sex life, they end up being cursed terribly, like in this case. So, what is the solution to this? Well, if we strictly follow Vedic culture, a man and woman should only have sex to procreate children, and then they should spend the rest of their time raising the children with love and devotion so that they become devotees. There are so many instances nowadays when a son will kill his parents, and or sometimes the wife will kill her husband, or the husband will kill her, uh, will kill her his wife. There's so many horrible things happening today, all because of bad education and also due to the inability to control the mind and senses because they're not being properly instructed by genuine devotees. This regular hearing from Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam is very important if one wants to have a peaceful and happy life and be able to have children and also guide the children to become pure devotees. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster, and it is already a disaster now. Every day, there's so many strange things happening because of illicit sex and meat eating and other types of sinful activity. So we have to be very careful in Kali Yuga. It's very easy to fall down to sex and illicit sex, I'm sorry, illicit sex and also uh, sense gratification and ruin your life and ruin the life of others. So we should not fall down to that sordid type of life. We should always chant our rounds and have very much respect for genuine devotees, bowing down to them, offering them homage, and being completely dedicated to following the principles of Krishna consciousness. If we can do that, then we can maintain a society of genuine devotees whose main purpose is to develop the qualifications of pure devotees and go back home, back to Godhead, not to engage in continual birth, death, old age, and disease for sense gratification and always remain in the clutches of Maya. That is not the purpose of human life. The purpose of human life is to be liberated from Maya and to go back to Godhead quickly so that we don't rot in the material world. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Are there any questions or comments? Hare Krishna. Yeah, just look at this. It says, "Oh, foolish, sinful person, because you have eaten my husband when I was sexually inclined and desiring to have the seed of a child, I shall also see you die when you attempt to discharge semen in your wife. In other words, whenever you attempt to sexually unite with your wife, you shall die. What a terrible curse. But what a terrible, let's say, destiny when people start engaging in cursing and engaging in horrible activities like eating the husband of a woman who wants to have a child. These are right horrible things to hear. And obviously, one might see these things also. It's horrible. Therefore, as devotees, we stay very far away from such barbaric behavior in people and strictly follow Krishna consciousness to free ourselves from such miseries of life. Okay, no questions or answers. We will stop right there. I'll just wait a minute. If there are any questions or answers? All right, so thank you very much, my dear devotees. The takeaway for today. It is, O foolish, sinful person, because you have eaten my husband when I was sexually inclined and desiring to have the seed of a child, I shall also see you die when you attempt to discharge semen in your wife. In other words, whenever you attempt to sexually unite with your wife, you shall die. Well, this is a terrible curse. And just hearing this type of cursing is not very good, especially early in the morning. It's not good at any time, whether it's early morning or late evening. This type of cursing is the actions of, let's say, very frustrated people. So, how to become free from that severe frustration? Well, by associating with genuine devotees and avoiding the association of nonsense people. Eventually, if we associate with nonsense people, we will also become nonsense and we become so degraded as to commit very horrible, sinful acts. And it's happening right now. I'll talk more about this tomorrow. But it's not that only hearing what's in the Shastra is there horrible things. There's more horrible things happening today by human beings that are so-called highly educated and wealthy and powerful, and they're doing things that is unimaginably simple, horrible things. We'll discuss that a little bit tomorrow. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Glorious to Srila Prabhupada.